Just give me 1 second, party people. How we doing tonight? Well, how we doing, Emmanuel?
Well, it's Thanksgiving weekend, so just a lot of family stuff, a lot of busy family stuff going on. So
Busy family stuff.
yeah.
Sorry if I look like a bartender for a moment here. I'm still getting my coffee together, so apologies to those out in the audience. How about you, Elle? I know you didn't really get into the Thanksgiving, festivities.
No, I just started watching Squid Game.
Really? How did you like it?
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard I saw your tweet about that. How did you like it?
Well, I haven't watched all of it. I'm not binging it.
Okay.
I watched 2 episodes.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, I feel like if you only watch the first episode, it won't go too. I guess we're not spoiling too much. I feel like by now most people know the premise of what the show is about. Hey, we got Caitlin in the house.
Hey, Caitlin.
But yes, for those who do not know about Squid Games, I do recommend it. I watched it myself. I felt it was more disturbing than I was expecting. I'll just say that much.
Wait, with all the predictive programming we've ever seen, I mean, did it really?
No, it was still more disturbing than I was expecting.
It's all about the Benjamins, baby.
Yeah.
Or the Juan.
Oh, be careful. You might get in trouble. They might say you're trying to be like Ilhan Omar. Because automatically if you say all about the Benjamins, of course that's a anti-Semitic trope.
What? I've never heard that.
Yeah, you don't remember.
You don't remember that whole right? You don't remember that whole thing where they were talking about it, and apparently she hated like Jewish because she said that she hated like Jewish people and everything, and she got like a whole lot of flack for it.
Well, she didn't say she hated Jewish people. What she said was,
I know she didn't, but the media implied that she did.
She said AIPAC is all about the Benjamins.
They are, just like Big Pharma is. Listen, it's nothing to do
with
it.
And so that was taken as an anti-Semitic trope. Right. What's up? Got my boy Chris in the house.
What's going on, y'all?
Kayla says, I genuinely enjoyed the conversation about how consent became something else entirely. Oh, yes.
I guess
we don't. We don't want to. I guess we don't want to spoil anybody who's still trying to watch it out there.
Now I can guess. So that's
because Squid Games is going to have like season 2 coming up soon, I believe. I know that they've been filming it already. Oh, you didn't?
Know that was left open. Now I know that's going to happen. Thanks.
Well, they've been publicizing it. Come on.
I'm eating it. I'm throwing him blind.
And I see we got Variant in the house. I see Mr. Street in the house. You know what?
Hey, in the chat, please.
Yeah, don't spoil it for her. Hey, Chris, can you pull up that intro? And I want to see if it works out a little bit better this time. We tried to play it last week for you all, and let's see if it'll work a little bit better this time.
All right, I'm going to get it right now.
All righty. I guess I can go ahead and set up what our topics are tonight. If you guys saw the title, of course, and that's me titling it. So anybody who wants to beat me up in the comments section or whatever, come after me. It's not the whole team. I call it ThanksKilling. And because I have Native American ancestry, along with other things, to me, it is not a holiday which I relish in. For me, it is actually, even though my family still practiced it and celebrated it, it was kind of more looked at as this is just a time to kind of get together and let's not think about why this actually started and what this was about. So we'll just call it you know, I call it Thanksgiving now, ThanksKilling, because I know more and more detailed about it. Mad Marxist says yesterday was intense. I'm leaving it at that. Yes. Caitlin says I think I'm still my metabolism food for the last 3 days. How did everyone else's fare? Let's see, what did I have yesterday? I think I had tamales, but it wasn't like any kind of. Plus, I've never really been big on a lot of the food anyway. I've always been more of a dessert kind of person, so yeah,
Okay.
I could do without stuffing and cranberry sauce and all that shit, you know. But what about you, E?
Yeah.
I didn't actually do. Sorry, L. I didn't actually do
No, he
anything.
said you.
I didn't actually go anywhere or do anything. I mean, the last month pretty much just cleaned my clock more or less. So it was just pretty much like stay at home, went to sleep, just ate what was around the house. It was actually quite possibly one of the dullest Thanksgivings I've ever done. But you know, after the whole month, I'm fine with dull. So, but yeah. I'm glad everybody else, right? So, totally good with dull.
And I honestly think most people at this point kind of look at it as more just a day off and time to get together with their family. And I think most Americans don't consciously think about what it's really about. I mean, you do have some of those kind of hokey, nerdy, goofy ass families who they think about, oh yes, and our patriotism for Thanksgiving, and you know the English colonies got together with the negatives, and it was just this wonderful occasion, and they all sat down and broke bread together and all. I got a couple of videos to kind of go into that a little bit more, so let's have a little bit of fun with it. Mr. Street says, I love to cook and actually not paying attention to their holiday and enjoying the 4-day weekend. My man, preach. Then also,
I'm a dessert fan like Marcus.
Yeah.
I love my grandmother's sweet potato pie. So
that's what I was going to ask next. What's your favorite dessert?
Yeah, it's her sweet potato pie. I do.
And I guess a little embarrassing news. I guess it's not really embarrassing to me anymore. But my mom has a picture of me when I was a kid. I was maybe about like 5 or 6. I mean, if that, maybe 4 or 5. And like, it's weird because I don't really eat sweet potato pie that much now. But like,
right.
Literally 2 handfuls deep in it, just going to town on it. So it's a funny blackmail picture my mom has for me. Matt Marshall says we need to cooperative these tables. Hey, I see Blue Moon Red Wine in the building. And shout out to her channel. If you guys are not familiar, go and check her out. Says I like that it doesn't revolve around shopping. Yes.
Yeah, that's the next day.
Yeah, well,
right. That's the next day.
Some people literally were like waiting until, you know, like I remember how my family used to be. We used to like wait until like it was like 11 o'clock, and we're like, okay, we can't. All right, we're gonna be already there. We're sitting in the parking lots waiting for Black Friday to start. So I mean, it technically kind of ties together. I got my brother there, Atres, in the house.
Apparently, nobody bought anything.
Well, I saw mixed reports. I saw some reports saying that, you know, large crowds, and then I saw other things talking about how the Dow was looking kind of shaky because they didn't hit some of the numbers they were expecting for yesterday.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, they were.
And also, it used to. You remember it used to be? I know Marcus remembers this. You remember it used to be just like one day, and then it was pretty much kind of done, and then now it's like a whole. I think it's stretched out to a month now, 2 weeks. It's between 2 weeks and a month now. Just goes to show.
Yeah, well, I mean, I worked in retail, and I can tell you for a fact that they spread it out. Like, you can get a lot of the same deals if you go in there like a couple of days early. I mean, so you don't actually have to come in on actual Black Friday. I know. Well, I worked at Lowe's and Home Depot. As far as the retail, so it might be a little bit different than like a Target or Walmart.
I did Home Depot too.
Oh, really?
I did Home Depot as well. Yeah, I did. I was fascinated.
Says there are very few deals that occur on Black Friday. They make bank. There aren't any sales. Most merchandise is cheaper up to 6 months prior. Actually, yeah, because what they do in a lot of stores is they mark it up right before, and then they drop it back down to a certain to a somewhat cheaper price around that time period. Oscar says, "I'm waiting. I'm waiting for Analog Cyber Monday." LOL. Analog Cyber Monday, good one. I guess the other topics that we have, because we've talked about, we're going to go into some of the history on Thanksgiving. We are going to go into the Ahmaud Arbery verdict, and have some of our thoughts on that, and a little bit of video going into that in detail. We're also going to talk about the new variant. No pun intended, variant. Sorry, but for this new COVID thing. We're going to talk about that a little bit. What is it called? To me, it almost sounds like it reminds me of Emmanuel Macron. But what is it?
Futurama, honestly. The aliens from Futurama, those green aliens, the Omicron. I think it's Omicron Persei 8.
I think they're trolling us sometimes when they come up with some of these names. I swear.
That's what I said. Yeah.
And then we're also going to get into Ghislaine Maxwell also. We talked about it. We touched on it a little bit on the last episode, and we're going to go into it a little bit more. Chris has it ready, so I'll stop running my jibber jabbers, and let's get it started. Ready whenever you are, Chris. Hopefully it doesn't buffer too much this time.
A question that you need an answer to. Thanks for joining Modern
Yeah, the music plays normally, but the picture does not. Yeah. I do like it though. You may just have to send out a link.
I might have to.
Right. I don't think you're gonna. Yeah, I like the music.
Yeah, it didn't come in quite how I wanted to, but I guess we'll go on ahead and get the show started. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is the Political Matrix. I am your host, Young Morpheus, also known as Marcus Cage, also known to some of my friends, hopefully with love, as Marcus Rage. Here with my friends and colleagues, to my left, right, whichever way you're seeing it on your screens. Got Mr. Cy Lawson there. Down below me, I have the Blue Maverick himself, Mr. Manuel. And we got the Ghost Whisperer in the machine, L. Latham. For those who don't know, I want to put this plug out there right off the bat. On Thanksgiving, I went over and joined Elle and sat down for her podcast, the Super Awkward Funcast. And we had quite a bit to talk about. Would you like to tell them a little bit about that, Elle?
Oh, I'm going to wait for my cue all night. But yeah, first I wanted to say that the avatar that I have says Dark Winter, if you were wondering, because the crop job was not my favorite. But that is where we're headed, apparently. So I put it as my avatar. Other than that, yeah, I did the podcast with the host here of the Political Matrix, Marcus Cage, and now I'm doing an accent. Anyway, I was very bubbly and very enthusiastic in this one, so it's a different L. So if you want to hear me at my most energetic for some fucking reason, I don't know why, because I was not high on anything, but I sounded really ADD that day. But no Ritalin here, no Adderall. But yeah, we had a fun time. It's oddly enough, it's unedited, but it might sound edited because I'm so off. I'm so weird in it. Yes, I am AKA L. Latham. With an N. I mean, not with an N, with an M, as in man.
Now, see, they know her. They know her. They know who she is. All right.
That's me. Anyway, we talked about COVID 1984 stuff. We talked about the variant, which did not have a shitty name yet. So we talked about that, the South African thing. We talked about some shit we can't talk about on YouTube there. And we talked about Ghislaine, and we didn't talk all about Ghislaine because I wanted to mention 2 more things, which I'm going to mention today. So we can get that out of the way, just because it was something that Marcus was inquiring about, and I didn't get to tell him. So I'll read him a couple articles today. And also, we talked about microplastics, which not a lot of people in our realm talk about enough. So that was a really fun conversation. It's a really long one. It's 2 hours plus, but it's really, really, I think it breezes by, to be honest. I was listening to it on a hike to get some pictures on Runyon Canyon. And it sounded pretty good.
Yeah, we went into talking about, I guess we can loosely say this if we don't name, exactly what we're saying, but we talked about like sterilization and a bunch of different stuff and ties to that some of these different cases have going on, especially as far as the Ghislaine Maxwell and some of the Jeffrey Epstein stuff. So we get into some interesting topics, definitely. Mr. Street asks, microplastic, WTF is that? Well, I would say that you probably should check it out and see what we're talking about. But I'll give you a little hint. Since a lot of our beverages and things like that are put in plastics, and a lot of our water and everything, plumbing and stuff is pumped through PVC and things like that. It talks about how some of these breakdowns of these microplastics get into our food and get into our body and actually cause all kind of different harms. So that's one of the things that's talked about in there, which a lot of people do not talk about this at all. And there are tons of articles talking about this. So it's not...
to just interject that there are links in the show notes on the episode. So even if you don't listen to it, you can gather that information and read it for yourself. And there's one from NIH website with a study that's literally says something about microplastics that I'm probably not allowed to say, except you can see it on there. So it's funny. But it makes a statement that makes you say,
I think we might be safe on talking about some of the microplastic stuff. It's just we might get honestly, what I've noticed, the only thing that really gets us into trouble is if you say certain things having to do with the Chinese government. I've found that gets some people in some trouble. And if we say the wrong thing dealing with this plague and the serum that they've created for this plague, to handle this plague, when you start talking about those things, those are the 2 things I see that mostly get you in trouble, unless you're being, I guess, directly so-called bullying a protected class or protected group. So,
well, it said in the article, microplastics, threat for male fertility. That's the issue at hand with the microplastics, is that it could be leading to infertility in males, boys, growing up, not being able to make babies.
Yeah, and that actually
different words.
And it's funny, that actually ties into an episode that me and Jalen talked about when we're talking about our foods and stuff that we put in our bodies on a show, Talk of the Ages, where the different dyes and things that are put into the foods, how they affect us in different ways. So, yeah, sorry, I don't want to get us too far off topic. I know some people are tuned in, like I didn't tune in to talk about all this other stuff. But for those who are new to checking out the political matrix, we are not as organized and streamlined as some other shows are. And it's probably just because the host, myself, is not that way. My mind bounces all over the place and thinks of a gazillion different topics. So I'm going to talk about a gazillion different topics and then hope it's entertaining and interesting for everyone. I guess since we haven't started out ThanksKilling, and I want to be, I guess let's just go ahead and get that out there. The elephant in the room, while we have so many issues with it. Most of you all know where the holiday of Thanksgiving came from. Chris, can you pull up the first video with the Pequots, the Pequot tribe, and for those who are not familiar with this information, I want to show the video instead of just talking about it. I could talk about the Pequots. I could talk about I could go into so many different other tribes where this happened to, but this is one of the first times where it actually became a tradition after this massacre that happened, and it became a custom after they would have their victories. After these so-called victories, they would lead into what they would call giving thanks for what they were given. So, thus the name. And also, Thanksgiving goes back into actual biblical terminology. So, when they're saying Thanksgiving, they're actually looking at that as literally a gift from God for that victory and all the things that came with it. So, a lot of times, it wasn't just about a dinner or a feast, it was about taking the enemy completely out, normally a Native American tribe, and stealing their land, sometimes including into enslavement of the people and all kind of horrendous things. If you guys see the picture of the which we have in the thumbnail for the show, it shows the major fire. That's another one. The Algonquin. That's another one that's a big deal. There are just so many that we could go into. Buffalo Soldier Bob Marley was murdered. Yeah, well, I don't doubt that. Do you have it ready, Chris?
Yeah, I think, excuse me. What's going on, everybody? L.E., what's up? Marcus, what's good? Yeah, I think so. Is that the one?
Well, it's the one that we showed last year. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. All right, yeah.
We talked about this last year, and I want people to see this is this was one of the elders, and I would like for one of the elders to speak on behalf, of what happened.
Yeah,
so you're just going through its ads right now.
Yeah, L wasn't along with us last year for this, but yeah, we we've showed this before, so some of the people who have been around and followed the show for a while, they might have seen this before, but he goes in very good detail, and so I just wanted to show it.
All right, I'm gonna play it now, Marcus.
Okay.
Stories you talked about was of the Native American being over 10 million at one point, now to less than 1 million.
When the European invader came here in the late 1490s, there were 112 million of us in this Republic of the United States. It's not a country, it's a republic. And in less than 500 years, through genocidal practices, through the introduction of diseases that we had no immunity to, and other evil things that brought arrogance, greed. Our numbers went from 112 million to less than 1 million by 1930. How did we kill our 111 million great people, loving people, people that are willing to share whatever they have, regardless of how small it is or how much they got? How do you do that?
That's a genocide you don't hear in the history books.
Absolutely. And another form of genocide that they practiced on us was paper genocide. There was a Dr. Arthur Fleck of Virginia. Cold-blooded racist. through taking a baby, an Indian baby, and instead of putting Indian or tribal name on that birth certificate, he would put mulatto or other. So many people walking around even today as we speak, 2017, don't know who they are because at birth their identity was destroyed through Dr. Arthur Blecker, the father of eugenics, who became the director of vital statistics during his time in the state of Virginia.
Now, another thing that they teach in the history book was the whole Thanksgiving meeting. But we talked about that, and I wanted people to know the truth about that. It was actually, if you want to talk about how Thanksgiving came about.
I do want to talk about it. First of all, you got to remember, my dear brother, that history, his story, it's not our story. When they proclaimed Thanksgiving, it was in Mystic, Connecticut. A tribe of Indian people, the Pequots, that were thriving and surviving. But shortly after, we taught these white people how to farm and how to take care of the land and raise food. They got beside themselves. A few years after they started prospering, they decided that they were going to take their women and their children out to a big field and have a cookout celebration. No Indians were deer. There was never a Thanksgiving dinner with them, according to what they say. Not true. The celebration of Thanksgiving was the men walked off from their families and went further north into Mystic, Connecticut, and they murdered these Pequot Indian children, elders, women, and men. Got them in the enclosure of their habitat. They built forts, per se. But that was only for the protection of their people. And we trapped them in, but he couldn't get out. And set it on fire. And they burned them to death. Then they came back. They were so thankful that they had killed these Indians. But that was their first Thanksgiving. Not what you read about in their books.
It wasn't until President Lincoln decided, instead of having it every other day when they were going to different tribes, killing them, that he decided to make it once a year, a day of Thanksgiving once a year.
True. But let me tell you about President Lincoln. Because Indians, Dakota, and Dakota Indians wouldn't give up. These are people from Minnesota, North, South Dakota, in that area. Would not give up. They were fighting. And they captured in excess of 200 of them. And they wanted to hang them all. But Lincoln intervened because of politics, should I say politics. He said, no, I don't want you to hang them all. Pick 38 of them. And that's how they came up with the Mankato 38. That was the largest mass hanging ever in this country, this republic.
Fucking hate commercials.
Yeah, I know it had a little bit of echo there, but for those who couldn't hear it, make sure to click that link down there. I'll probably go back after the show and put it into the comment sections. But some of the highlights of what he said in the video. They, for the Pequot tribe, what they did was they basically barricaded them all in and burned them alive. Over 700 people. A lot of times they'll talk about the Pequot War, and they ignore this portion here, which happened at the end. Had one of the largest mass hangings, and that was under Abraham Lincoln. A lot of people talk about how Abraham Lincoln how he freed the slaves, which a lot of people don't realize it's the reason why Juneteenth became a thing, because that was a couple of years later after, the Emancipation Proclamation, where they still had to go to a couple more additional states and tell them, hey, let the slaves free. And it wasn't just the Pequots. As Caitlin put in the, and I'll put the comment up here, said we had the Pawnee tribe, which semi-nomadic in northern Kansas, which you had the Pawnee, you had the Pawnee, the Shawnee, you had the Osage, you had the Kansa, you had there was a lot more tribes, which I'm forgetting all the names of. My family is Blackfoot and Choctaw, so it does kind of touch close to home, because knowing that a lot of them were massacred also and were pushed out of their lands during the Trail of Tears. So it's not a holiday which knowing the actual history and have a connection when you would, go past reservations or go out to reservations on occasion. It's hard to ignore that and ignore what the early settlers did and just try to, hey, well, it's just family time, when you know the gravity of what happened, and especially what's been happening all year long. Where I did a video on the other channel about 182 Native American kids' bodies being found. Most of those have been in kind of like the Michigan area up to Canada, and it's been, at this point now, I believe, up to 1,000 to 2,000 child bodies which they found. And I noticed Elle put look at what's happening in Canada right now. So sickening how many bodies have been found of Native children. That's what I was talking about. And I guarantee you're going to find more, because what a lot of people don't know, they don't know about the boarding schools where they would literally take Native children from families and force them into these boarding schools. And the motto of the boarding schools was, kill the Indian, save the man. And so their goal was strip them away from any form of culture that they had. And that's what that gentleman was alluding to, and talking about some of them, how some of these people don't even know their heritage of which tribe, that they came from tribes and things like that, because they've been told that they're other. They've been told, well, and a lot of people don't know, some of the natives were listed as Negro. Some of them were just listed as Mexican, and then pushed across the border into Mexico, part of the Mexican Repatriation Act, or I think that's what it was called. I'm forgetting the name at the time, but so some of the people who were put into the, so-called Hispanic culture, which I don't like that name either, because Hispanic literally meant a property of Spain. Latino meant a property of the Latins, going back into the Roman Empire. So none of the misnomers are good to say, and I don't like the Latinx thing either. So it all goes back to, when you understand the etymology of these words and what actually happened, it digs into the actual true tragedies. And then when you start thinking even before this, and you go back to Puerto Rico, and you can go into the Taínos and go into the Algonquins, and so much that's went on, and that's not even getting into what happened to the Aztecs and Mayans. And I personally try not to hold it against anybody who decides to participate in these holidays. But I would ask, if they could at least just have a moment of silence for your very next one that you have, and think about that somebody else's family. It's not a holiday. It's a tragic and somber occasion and event. So just to kind of keep that in mind. So I guess I'll pass it out to my panel. You guys have any thoughts? Chris,
Well, I mean, me and Chris saw this before.
Yeah.
And it's one of those it's one of those videos that stick, it's one of those videos that sticks with you, right? Like it's just and then you get more interest, and then you get more in depth about like the Indian schools and how they, try to, they cut off, they cut off their hair, and then they, taught them to read and write and learn the English language, and made them ban their language, ban their songs, right? I mean,
and they did that.
I'm hopeful that
they did that also with the Aztecs and Mayans. They literally sent them to Spain and Portugal, and then forced them into Catholicism, and then would bring them back to Mexico and other parts of Central America and southern parts of the U.S. to push Catholicism. It's sick when you think about what went on actually.
Right. So I don't have anything against anybody who celebrates it, but I always give an extra, props to anyone that says, Thanksgiving is a complete load of crap. The Native American people really don't like it. Because America will whitewash the hell out of it. So.
Oh yeah. And it blew my mind in schools how they, for so many years, got away with telling an alternate story of everything that actually happened. Caitlin says there is media in one of the windows at the museum that straight up call them concentration camps. So yeah, if you live in a state which still has native population, and you still have reservations that are not very far from some of the major cities, you still can see some of these things. Caitlin lives in the area near where I lived and grew up also most of my life, and I know exactly what she's talking about. I've been to those different areas. I grew up in Kansas City. I forgot, my county, literally Wyandotte County, is named after a native tribe. And they still own part of the land within the city limits. So even if you're not native, you're given a reminder all the time about what actually happened. I mean, I forget about the Kaw, one of the major rivers which flows through North Kansas City. The Kaw River was one of the Kaw Valley tribes. So that's a little bit of it. Anybody? Chris, you guys have any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm part Cherokee, so I grew up, really wanting to learn all about my ancestors, and I was more aware than most in my school, like, was it elementary school or middle school, whatever, in Georgia, where they do have a lot of history in the books, but they kind of pick and choose what they're going to focus on in them. And I noticed that things just didn't sit right with me with how, one, the fucking 1492 lie, the lie, that one was an eye opener.
The rhyming lie.
Wait a minute. So he never really found anything. That was not the new world. That was already a world that already existed. Whether it was, there's some debate, if Asians, were there at some point or whatever, or, there's a lot of debate about who was there first or whatever, here first, I guess. but it wasn't him. It definitely wasn't him and his colonists, and then he called it the West Indies. He thought it was the West Indies, so then Indian came to be. So I always gave him shit for that in my head. I would be like, fuck that guy, because he's the reason we say Indian, and I don't want to say Indian. I mean, I'm, whatever you want to do, but I think it should be tribe, honestly. I think it shouldn't just be Native American for what you are. It should be part of your history, which is whichever tribe you come from.
Which for me, I kind of switch it in my head a little bit, because when they say Indians, I think of it just switching it to how the Spaniards would have said it. Actually, originally it'll be Indios, which if you break apart those words, Indios, in God. So I like to think of it that way. Sorry to cut you off though.
Yeah, and then also, I don't remember the last time I celebrated Thanksgiving. I don't even think when I did with my family, when I was a child, that I was actually celebrating it. You know what I'm saying? I always knew that it was some BS. and so when everybody kind of caught up to that on Twitter, apparently, a few years back, and everybody's like, oh my gosh, look what happened. I'm like, yeah, I know. I learned about that a long, long time ago. You're just catching up right now. And then the same thing with the flag and the, Pledge of Allegiance and everything. I stopped doing that shit when I was 10, before anyone, and then people don't want to do the Star Spangled Banner and stuff. I'm like, I haven't done that ever, at an event or whatever. I don't participate in weird rituals that everybody has to do together and you don't even know why. And it's because of patriotism. I'm not a patriot. I'm a human being on a planet. It's not that deep,
I mean, I completely agree. And I think also probably because of the fact that you're on the East Coast in the Southeast, you have a lot more reminders of it. Like when I was in Jacksonville, a lot of the cities are, it's a lot of names which you have in Florida, which remind you, of the people who were there before. And it sticks out in your head a lot more than maybe on the West Coast. I wanted to read these couple of comments. Kayla,
just one sec. Could I just say one thing about that? Because you were saying East Coast. I just remembered that I always remember, but I just remembered now that we had exchange students at my school, elementary school, and it was Navajo. It was Navajo people. And I got to know them personally. I got to have relationships, friendships with these people. So I was actually exposed to people who had a tribe. So that was very interesting to have that experience as well. It was a very progressive school when you think about it. I'm kind of surprised that we were so progressive before we got the rebel flag, which I found out when I moved to North Carolina for a little while with my mother during high school. I found out when I went back to Georgia that they changed the flag. And I think it was a black mayor. So I was just very confused that they changed it to the rebel flag all of a sudden. I was like, are we really doing that? Okay. I thought we were beyond that, but we aren't.
What's the class you took in Georgia? What's the class you took in Georgia called Georgia History? Maybe?
Yes,
I don't...
of course.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, Georgia History. Yeah.
Yep.
That was that book was.
I forget that you guys both grew up in Georgia.
Right. Yeah. I was like, she said it, she was talking about the history, the Indian history, pick and choose, and I was like, she must be talking about Georgia history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a whole class.
I would read between the lines a lot of the time of what they're saying. I'm like, wait, smallpox? Okay. That's interesting.
Like, oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
she's 100% correct.
And I lived right up under Georgia too for a little while, so I got to see a lot of it, being not that 45 minutes from the Georgia state line. Kaylin says yes, they renamed every child to friggin' Quaker names. Very, very true. Mm-hmm. I saw this comment that Blue Moon Red Wine said. Let me put it up on the screen. Says a lot of the Apaches got sent to the Caribbean. Exactly, and they not only did that with Apaches. That's what I started finding out maybe a couple of years back, that they took a lot of the natives and just played okay, we're going to send you from Mexico. We're going to send you down to Cuba. We're going to send you in Cuba. We're going to send you over to Brazil. We're going to take you and move each person around and play this little, play musical chairs with all of our slaves and then mix them up. And that goes back to a history which they learned from the Assyrians in the Syrian captivity. I guess digging into a little bit of my biblical history for a moment, what they did was whenever they took over a whole area, they put each person in each other's land, because since they would know less about the land, it was less likely that they could escape. And so they took those same practices. Let's see.
I'm personally jealous between you and Elle that on some level your Native American history. My mother was from Kansas, and she alluded to the fact that me and my sister have Native American in us, but she could not give an explanation beyond that. And that always just kind of honestly depressed me.
Well, and they did that. They did that also, and this, I don't want to kind of get off topic, but if you look back through, I have like a list of at least about maybe 40 to 50 massacres, which happened in the early 1900s. Because a lot of people know about Tulsa, Oklahoma, or Greenville, and they might know about Rosewood, but they might not know about what happened in Cleveland or what happened in Harlem or what happened. I mean, there's so many other massacres which happened within like a 30-year period of each other in a lot of these black towns. And if you go to maybe 50 years right before that, a lot of the same thing were going on with a lot of native tribes also. So, I mean, it's a tragic and ugly history if you really take the time and are willing to face it. That's the reason why when I hear people talk about critical race theory, and they talk about, well, it's just going to teach us to hate each other. No, it teaches people to be realistic about what's actually happened in this nation's history. And some people want to look at the red, white, and blue as so wonderful and so glorious, and don't want to reflect on how the red, white, and blue became what it is. Because as I see it, it's very bloody. I guess I'll say one more biblical thing. It says blood defiled the land. So if blood defiled the land, how defiled is this land actually with all the innocent blood that's been slaughtered here? Let's see. A couple of other, because Mr. Street's comment here says, they made past natives look primitive by burying their structures, but they're digging up a lot of their culture and structures now. Yeah. I mean, you go back into you look at, for instance, some of the stone structures which still stand, which you see throughout Central and South America, and you start finding out that they had thermodynamics, that they targeted light sources in to be able to use the sun and reflect light all the way through. And you start finding out all of these technologies in ways, just like the gentleman said in there, the elder, how he talked about how they taught the European I keep wanting to say colonizers because that's what they were, but the colonists how to farm. And then once they learn how to, okay, now we know how to live on your lands. We don't need you anymore. Let's go kill you off. And that's what they did. And I'll get myself in trouble. I don't want to go too far on that. But Caitlin says, they still do lie in education. The girls in middle school, and it's pretty Dick and Jane level propaganda. And it has to be, because a lot of the people who are in power at this point in time are the descendants of the people who did this stuff. And I don't know if people, because to me, I would have more respect if you're like, you know what? I did get a lot of things from my from my ancestors who were slave masters and all that, and then we could start to rebuild. But since you don't want to acknowledge or any of those things, then that keeps that division, and it makes it harder for people to get past those things if nobody can acknowledge the faults of the past. Mr. Street says, I wonder how I flunked history. It was BS. Yeah, because a lot of it was BS. Chris, do you have that other one? The other video? I wanted to bring that one up too. I think that one's only like 2 minutes long. Blue Moon Red Wine says Native American population in Latin America is very high, though. The U.S. wants to keep calling people Hispanic because they don't want to give land benefits, even for those cross-border nations like the Navajo. Exactly. Exactamente. Very, very true. Navajo are north and south of the border. There are so many tribes that are dispersed and mixed around all over the place. And you start finding that if you go and look to the languages before, if you can still find some of that. I know it's hard to find. But and one thing which I always found weird was you can't find out, nobody wants to tell you what language family those languages fit to, because languages have to fit to something. They have to fit somewhere. And one of the primary one, like Nahalatan, nobody wants to tell you where the heck that actually ties to. I found it very interesting when I did more research that I started finding a lot of that starts to tie back, and it's similar to Phoenician and Aramaic, but that's for a whole nother discussion. I'll leave that there. Atra says, my Native American ancestry is a Chimachimeca nation around Jalisco, Mexico. Matt Marxist says the Mayan Empire at its height was far north of Ohio and east way to Georgia. Yeah, I mean, and then once that was taken over, and you had the French, you had the Louisiana Purchase. A lot of people don't realize how many Haitians lived in some of these areas and stuff too. It gets deep when you start really looking into this history, and you realize why they want to keep a lot of it secret. But yeah, without further ado, let's let the clip play. Hopefully it's not that bad on the echo, but if it is, we'll just put it in the chat, and then we'll try to come back and put it in the comment section later on. Ready, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving, America. I'm Donna, and I'm here with my friends to tell you the real history behind this holiday.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
Growing up, I knew that what they told you in school about Thanksgiving wasn't true. That's not the true story. The true story behind Thanksgiving was after every killing of a whole village, these European settlers celebrated it, and they called it Thanksgiving. But it wasn't until Abraham Lincoln became president that it became an official holiday.
He ordered 38 Dakota men to be hung for war crimes after the sacred holiday Christmas.
We take this time to remember our elders who lost their lives due to what really happened. Usually my mom makes a Native American dish for us and we pray.
Growing up, I would be kind of annoyed that they didn't know what actually happened on Thanksgiving and that they're actually celebrating the deaths of many people and many tribes that were lost.
Whether it's to give thanks or to be with your family, you should learn how the holiday was established in the first place.
I'm thankful for being born indigenous to this continent.
I'm thankful that I still have my culture.
I'm thankful that my elders kept our culture alive all these years.
I'm thankful to be indigenous, resilient, and alive.
I'm thankful for us all to be able to stand together, stand strong, and stand as one.
Happy Thanksgiving, America.
So there's their attitude about ThanksKilling,
yeah,
right?
That's why I wanted to show that, because
I respect it.
Go ahead.
They're popular, right? That's the popular culture is picking. They're starting to really talk about it. I think that I watched a PBS kids show that actually spoke about what happened in the Indian schools and how they. I think the story was centered around them squashing out his language and his music, and the character was like, if the white people are going to do that, I just won't play anymore. And he didn't play for like decades, and the whole story was revolving around like getting his native drum back so he could start playing his old songs again. So you see stuff like that, involving like the Teen Vogue people. Yeah, that gives me hope.
it gives me hope seeing the younger generation that the history is still being passed down, and in the native culture, oral tradition is huge. And I mean, there's so many things I want to say, but I guess I won't go in. Like, I noticed one thing in particular on that table, how they had the pomegranate, which the pomegranate is something very interesting in, that I hold dearly. And I noticed in that first video how all the turquoise that he had on, which turquoise is very significant, which a lot of people don't realize. It's sacred, you know, in the native culture, and I'll leave it there. I won't go in there. L, yes, I do want you to add in your voice. That's why you're a part of the show. So you're not interrupting. You're not interrupting.
How do I say this?
And thank you, Blue Moon. I try my best. I want to try to do it with love. I don't want everybody to feel like they're attacked to come out with this information, because that's the only way. Like, the Bible says the truth will make you free. And I know a lot of people heard that. No, the truth will set you free. They stole that from the Bible. And it will set us free if we can be truthful about a lot of these things, and we can all start coming to the realization of what the hell is actually going on and why this world is so crazy.
The truth regarding Teen Vogue is even a broken clock is right twice a day, and that's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they're great on everything. I'm not, but
no. But the fact that they even just admitted it, like, how far back would we have to go for them to even just bringing it up would have been like, banned, like buried or something like that.
Yeah, we got buried. Yeah. Information got buried. I see a friend in the building, Skylar Tenderlungs. How we doing, brother? Glad to see you here.
What's up, Tenderlungs? Hey.
Hey, saw you in the chat yesterday. I was lurking.
And thank you, Kara's Rants. Let's see. Okay, gotta charge my phone and cuddle my kids. We'll be back. All right, Caitlin, we'll see you in a minute. But yeah, that's what I wanted to get to. I'm trying to make sure I get as many comments in here as possible. Especially when I see a new one. Cryosynth 42 late, but hey, you're definitely welcome. Right. So thank you for joining us. Mr. Street says, I have Native American in my ancestry. They were dark skinned with Native features. You can't necessarily go off of looking at skin complexions, because for one, there is some mixtures there, and also natives weren't just one particular complexion. Some were a little bit lighter, some were a little bit darker. Also, some unfortunately, we'll say, did have slaves, but some also took in slaves who ran away and hid them. So history gets messy, over time, and it's nuanced, and we need to always look at it that way. And when we talk about that, some of the tribes which owned, it was the 5 major tribes which owned slaves, not all of the whole hundreds of tribes. So I like to always keep that in mind when some people like to go into that aspect of it. Also, when you look into the Seminoles out of Florida and Georgia area, a lot of them were darker complected. So that's something also to keep in mind. Let's see our next topic to get to. I guess we can go ahead and talk a little bit about the new variant that we have. I know kind of a rough transition, but we talked about it a little bit on L's program, and I noticed now that they're starting to see it in the UK and in Italy, and I believe France also. And it was also
for that too.
Oh, you say you have a clip for that?
And we can just listen. We don't even have to listen to it. We can just read the subtitles. I found a subtitle clip for you guys. Yay.
Oh, shoot. Yeah. And my brother Franco is in the building. Thank you for joining us, Franco. And by the way, thanks for having me on your platform the other day.
Yeah.
I so much enjoyed it and had a great time. For those who haven't saw it, make sure to get over to Franco's channel and check that video out. And if you're not a subscriber already, get over there, subscribe, tap the bell, get his notifications. He always has so much interesting conversation, and he brings so many people from so many different angles. He's already had me on. He's had Chris on. He's had Elle on, and Emmanuel is next to go on. So definitely check that out.
I call it, oh, come on.
Yeah, we'll call it the oh, come on.
Oh, come on.
I think I called it the OMG variant. So
it's just like, come on. Like, new variant at least sounded okay and looked okay, but like, they're like, nah, we're going to save that one. Let's go to Omicron.
Omicron sounded like a transformer at first. I was like...
It's just so ridiculous.
Or some weird corporation. You know,
right.
some corporation.
And also a Roman...
I mean, it sounds weird in so many different ways. And here's one question I want to ask, and I want to put this out there to anybody if they can tell me the difference. I'm not talking to some kind of medical professional or somebody who has any intense knowledge on any of this, but what is the difference between the alpha, or I guess the original, the alpha, the delta, the lambda, and the OMG now? What is the difference? What extra symptoms do you have? What is different from any of these versions of the COVID whatever?
I'd like to know what happened to Lambda and Mu or whatever. Like, where did that go?
Right. I thought they were doing it. I thought they were doing it
like the hurricanes, you know, keeping it in order.
Right.
No,
they're
gonna
skip right over.
They're so desperate. That's what this is. And I'm not going to go into why, but like, they're so desperate right now. They're selling the boosters at the same time. It's so obvious what's going on. Like, oh, come on. Like, and then Fauci just put his foot in his mouth again. Like, he couldn't even get the script right. They're just, which is good. We got them improvising now. That's good. We want them to improvise.
Just making it up.
Fauci's default is, I don't know what it is, but we need to be scared of it. That's like his default.
Experience.
And I wanted to read this quick. SD says, this has been a great education on this live so far. Thank you, SD. And Franco is great. Franco has actually helped a lot of people find this channel. So, you know, big shout out to him. And we did have an intense discussion yesterday. Yesterday. And we're going to be doing that again next Friday on Franco's channel. So make sure you guys tune in for that. But yeah, sorry. Going ahead, Elle.
Oh, I wanted to mention this clip that I found on archive.org from CNN that we can watch with subtitles, which is awesome. So I sent that to you, Chris. You should get it. And it should be ready to play. But it's him, and we don't have to hear his squirrely little rat mouth talk. So that's the good part. So it should have the closed captions on. If not, I can help you with that. But it was informative because he really messed that narrative up. You'll see what I mean if you look closely at what he's saying. This is from November 26th, which is yesterday. So it's not that old.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for it. I'm having a bit of connection issues this evening. I don't know why, but I am. And I'm plugged directly into my modem too. So
is it possible for anyone else to screen share?
So here we go. I'm gonna put the link in the chat anyway, so that people have access to it. All right, it's just done there.
Weird that it started happening like right now.
It's a shame we can't see it.
This is Life with Lisa Lane.
Can you guys hear that?
Yeah, I can't see shit though.
CNN.
Can you hear it? Well, whenever.
Yeah, I can hear it when it played. Yeah.
A new variant of coronavirus has been discovered in South Africa, and this is raising concerns. Scientists.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with my internet connection tonight.
Is it possible for anyone else to screen share? We used to be able to do that.
And enhanced
I don't know. It just
transmissibility.
depends on
Joining me now is President Biden's chief medical advisor on COVID, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Sir, thank you so much for being with us this morning. This is obviously a very significant.
All right, El, so we don't bore them to death with the buffering. What did our guy Mr. Brilliant, all-knowing Dr. Fauci said during this interview?
How about I read it for you? How about that? Okay, let me get to the part. I don't even know where I'm at here. I'm not used to archive.org videos.
You said you're not used to archive?
Archive.org videos? I should be able to hear it without you hearing it, so let me go ahead and turn it on.
As we try to look at what the risk factors are.
Oh, now they're
variant. What can you
Okay.
tell us about this?
Joining me is Tony Fauci,
Well,
obviously.
certainly there is.
It's only like a minute long, too.
Oh, okay. I'll let the rest of it play.
A new variant.
Yeah, see, every time we wanted to play is acting up. So go ahead, Al. Read your thing that you were gonna read. Go ahead.
Yeah, just go ahead and summarize it if it's only a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see here. Oh, no, I lost it. Where is it? Are you kidding? It's like they're against us. It really is. Okay, let me find his ass again. There he is. Okay.
That's half the fun, El.
Okay. What can you tell us about this? She says. And then he's like, well, certainly there is a new variant that is now in South Africa. Well, at that point it was. That has some mutations that are raising some concern, particularly with regard to possibly transmissibility increase and possible evasion. Next. Of immune response. We don't know that for sure right now. This is next. Something that's in motion. No. Oh man, they really do not want us to watch that. It wouldn't let me play it anymore. I'm not even kidding.
See, I knew it wasn't just them. It's weird.
This is creeping me out, dude.
Nah, it's pretty much normal for the three of us,
Okay.
man. That happens all
It's
the time.
back. I was like, did I lose the stream?
Exactly.
It happens all the time. Yeah, that
Okay,
happens
I'll
like
go
all the
back.
time. Not even.
Oh, now I'm on a different video.
I'm like,
Hilarious.
I'm like unfazed at this point.
Hey, El, question for you there from Franco.
Yeah. Oh, I have the script. Oh my gosh, sorry. Right now you were talking about sort of like a red flag that this might be an issue, but we don't know. Once you test it, you'll know for sure whether or not it does or does not evade the antibodies that we make. For example, against the virus through a vaccine or following convalescent something after you get infected, do those antibodies protect you from whatever the hell he says next against this new virus? The answer is we don't know right now, but we're going to find out for sure. And then, that made me think, like, if you can't test it for the antibodies or whatever, if you have trouble testing it, how do you know that it exists as it is? Like, did they use genomic sequencing to find this? And why did they all of a sudden do that? Were they looking for it in the first place? That's what I don't understand. I'm trying to understand. They need to make me understand. Or they're just talking stupid shit to us to get us to comply, and it just doesn't make sense. And then if that's the case, what about the mandates? If they escape the virus and the immune response and everything, then what's the point of the fucking mandates then? Like, make it make sense. And yes, you know, South Africa, I don't know, you know, vaccinated people, Frank, yeah. Vaccinated people are allegedly the ones who got, you know, 4 travelers got this specific variant that they can't even test for. Yeah, I know it's convalescent plasma. I just was saying that for no reason. Convalescent plasma. I was going to say that, but I just wanted to read it as it was because it was just not all the way correct. But archive.org, you can see like all these lies.
Great question. What I'd like to know is what happened to the flu?
It still exists. You know, we had a worse year this year than last year, according to the data, which is another thing they're not talking about. That more people died allegedly from their little PCR test disease, COVID, this year than last year. That's what they said. The COVID was worse this year than last year. But we have the vaccines. We should all be safe now from at least hospitalization and death, no?
Well, and then something that we also notice is that even though Africa supposedly has Africa literally has the lowest vaccination rate in the world. And they also have the lowest amount of cases. So I'm trying to figure this out.
6% vaccination rate, yeah.
Yeah.
Just a couple of days ago, we learned that. We talked about it on that podcast, too.
But then we have the Biden administration literally saying, oh, we can't have anybody come from these areas. When it's worse here, when COVID is apparently supposedly worse here in the States than it is in those places. I
just found an article that says experts, you know, those experts that we trust so much, warn Omicron could be in U.S. undetected. Scientists wait for key answers. Cases known in UK, latest COVID updates. And that's from 6 hours ago. So, yeah, like, it's such BS.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter where you are. It's going to get you. Yeah, exactly. Belgium to Egypt. Like, what?
The variant was tracked to a specific woman who traveled from Belgium to Egypt to South Africa, and they were speculating on her.
Because I read she just came from Egypt, and it didn't make any sense.
Wow, who is this woman who is traveling all these different places? And for two, if she's traveling all these places, is she vaccinated? Traveling all these places? Because from what I thought, in order for you to fly from all these different places, you had to be vaccinated to fly from country to country. So if she's vaccinated, then make sense how she's catching them. Or here's my other question I want to ask. If we're getting the variants, okay, if people are getting vaccinated, and then there's variants popping up. You know what? I'll just leave it alone. But this isn't making sense to me because if you say that, okay, well, if you get vaccinated, this should limit the spread, and it should, even though we all know that you still can get COVID while you're vaccinated. I'm not understanding where these variants are coming from. And people are trying to say, what, the variants are coming from the unvaxxed people? So what does that mean? Like their immune system is making it split?
They're more worried about the vaccinated people, you know, escaping the immune response or whatever. Like they're not being able to. They're just going to put this into place so that they can have more lockdowns every fucking place and have.
And disclaimer, and I just want to put this out, YouTube, because I know that they listen and they pay close attention to everything we say. We're not saying that we're medical professionals. We're just saying that this isn't making any sense to us. And I would love if you guys could give me some kind of professional who I could talk to, who you guys could suggest for us. And, you know, I'd love to have them on the show so they could just explain some of these things to us that don't make any sense or not making sense to us. Or maybe I and and my colleagues here, maybe we're just not intelligent enough to get this. Maybe you could break this down to like Sesame Street level for it to make sense.
Explain it like I'm 5.
Yes, please.
It seems like they kind of just needed another reason to boost up the boosters to people and to get people
don't give the
to engage in their programs. And it seems
once you let L
well,
go,
we can't give them you can't give them a theory on what we think, because then they say, "Oh, you guys are spreading." No, we want them to explain this to us. And we're not even going to put any. Well, we think maybe you're doing this because maybe you're trying to do this. We're not even going to do any of that.
They're being very obvious about it, but they can continue to tell us stupid shit. And tell us
this shit makes sense. That's all I want. Make it make sense.
None of this had made sense in the first place, so I'm just not surprised by any of it, to be honest. Because it's nonsense throughout.
I know.
And we can't say why, but it is nonsense. And if you look at my podcast, you will know why.
I know, but you'll get us in trouble saying that, Elle. Don't say that.
That's why I'm not saying it. I'm saying go listen to the podcast. We got into it.
and if you guys will notice on the podcast, you'll hear a very different version of the way I speak about this stuff on the show here and how it is on the podcast. So make sure, please check it out.
And YouTube, you don't have to listen to the podcast. You're fine. You just stay home.
Yeah, you don't need to listen to a YouTube at all. Do not. In fact, forget you even heard of it, YouTube.
What podcast?
Mr. Street says, Marcus about to go ham on BS. I'm calm. Completely. I'm just a person, and I've always had this problem, I guess. Maybe this is a problem that I have. When I used to go to church, I would ask pastors and deacons, this doesn't make any sense. Can you make this make sense? When I was in school, history teacher would say something, that doesn't make sense. Can you make this make sense? When I'd have people try to explain to me about taxes and wars and all that stuff, I just say, make it make sense to me. I'm not going to I'm not even going to give you my conspiracy theory. Just explain it to me and tell, and I'm gonna pick on Christians for a minute. Like the Trinity. Yes, God is talking to himself the whole time, and he's having arguments with his damn self, and then he put himself on the cross to kill himself. Make it make sense. That's all I asked about anything. Make the shit make sense. If it doesn't make sense, then you have to start questioning. And I think any rational human being should be, trying to make sense. 2 + 2 = 4. But if there's a case where 2 + 2 turns into 7, make that shit make sense. Come on, Chris. I know you got something to say.
No, please.
No, I'm just sitting here listening. On one hand, it's like, we got to find out where Unicron came from. I thought that was Cybertron, right? That was the name.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
He was Unicron. He was like the real big one with the helmet shit. Who, he could beat up Megatron and all that. Like, I know my Transformers history real good. I'm an 80s baby. I'm dating myself, but that's okay.
We won't read this out loud, but we'll let Elle say what she really thinks. I'm pretty sure everybody can read. Exactly. And trust me, we all feel the same.
And that's the same thing, like Elle, I just see her in the comments. Like everything else, even for the prior one, the Book of Enoch, yeah, for real.
You're gonna tell me about mermaids and half men, half goats and all the weird shit that's in there. Okay. And giants and 50-foot giants having sex with 5'4" women. Yeah, make that shit make sense. But hey, I'm not gonna pick on the Ethiopia church today.
No, but even so, when did they develop this test for Unicron, right? I know I'm saying it incorrectly, and that's on purpose.
Unicron, Megatron, OCP, whatever you want to call
Omicron,
it.
Persei.
But you know, when did they develop this test? Who are they giving this test out to? What portion of the population of the medical professionals who are encountering these patients? How many of them have the test that determines whether or not you have this? So it's just like the same thing with the Delta. They're just saying it, and people are just running with it. And you notice they put that information out right as people were probably getting to their destination on Thanksgiving Day. I mean, I saw it on Twitter at early afternoon. And I thought to myself, like, oh, okay, so if I was going to a family member's house, this would be a topic of conversation because I just saw it. Everybody is already scared. So, again, it just worked out so perfectly, man. You already know my true feelings on it.
Well, I know you saw, what was it, Nate Burleson who said it? Which I used to love him as a football player, but now he's gotten with CBS and kind of saying some weird shit. Like, remember they were talking about buying all the tests and like just having everybody out in the garage and, just have like some hors d'oeuvres out there. And you guys could like just make it like a game where you all just do your testing out in the garage, or if you don't have a garage, I guess you just do it outside. I mean, I don't really know the mechanics of how this or the logistics of how they want to work this shit out, but I mean
who needs Monopoly when you have PCR tests?
Just buy about buy like about 50 tests. I guess out of your own pocket on top of the Thanksgiving food that you're going to buy.
Pay for it, actually.
And, or maybe you can just charge everybody and tell them, hey, chip in $5-10 or whatever for all the tests I have to buy for this party.
While you're making them pay for the meal, why not?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I always tell people, there is a site where you can go to where you can look at your actual I guess risk assessment to like what demographic you're into, how I don't even know how to say this correctly, but just how what are your numbers? What are your percentages? YouTube, I didn't cite a percentage, so don't you try to fuck with me. But you can check your percentages for your risk of hospitalization or mortality rates, and I say just look that up before a lot of the franticness that goes on. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, I won't read this one out loud, but I'll leave it on the screen for everybody to see.
Yeah.
It's Blue Moon says, my weird concern is how none of this is evolved into conversation about animal welfare and environment, even though the whole thing evolved from eating a bat or so that
Which was another, that was not true, and it was proven not to be true later. And I knew that wasn't true when I first heard it, and I told people, and they're like, no, it's totally the bat.
Well, no, they haven't, that's the thing. Nobody has confirmed that. There's still some media sources which are arguing that's true.
But I don't think Fauci would even say that's true at this point.
Wait,
I've heard him trying to still make it true. He's still trying to make it. He's still trying to say it's the wet market.
I don't think he would say the bat thing. I think he would say Wuhan, definitely.
Well, he's saying the wet markets. He's saying it's the wet markets
specifically. Yeah. But they got rid of the bat thing. The bat thing kind of.
But Marcus, remember when
they were pangolin? Remember pangolin? That's what they were talking about.
What was that?
They were trying to connect it to. Remember when they were trying to connect it to like specific animals before? Remember in like I think it was like Norway or one of those Nordic countries.
Some of these animals got vaccines in some countries, in some zoos.
All right, guys, let us get off of this before I get us all in trouble.
Let's talk about Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, let's go on ahead. Let's get on to
Get
to
that bitch out of the way.
let's get on to the safe subject of Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Let's get
The
on to
trial will
that
not be
safe subject.
televised. But it's because it's a federal court, everybody. You know, it's a federal court, and they don't
True.
usually televise. Except sometimes they do, but sometimes
I think
they
so
don't.
too,
Especially when they're
Franco.
implicated federally.
Oh shoot! I got my brother Shadow Band is in the building. Just got on a Mastodon show in Dallas. Friggin' incredible. Glad to see it. I know
What's
he.
up, Shadow Man?
I talked to him earlier, and he said he's freaking out a little bit about the big city. It's all right. You'll be all right, brother. And oh yeah, for those who don't know, Shadow will be on next week. I'm planning to have Shadow Band on and Jack Sith. We're going to talk some crypto stuff. It's going to be an interesting chat. So make sure you guys keep that penciled in, keep that reminder, and look forward to that chat next week. I won't read this out loud, but I will just let you guys see. But what do we have on?
That's what they call genomic sequencing for the variants. That's what they told us. That's what they told us. Just to clarify.
Yes, that's what
they told us. That's all I'm saying.
I was like, I've been talking a little bit too much, and you know, they're gonna try to parse our words and figure out what they can say.
So Ghislaine, we talk about her a lot on the podcast.
Yeah, we talked about her quite a bit.
I did miss a couple of things that you were inquiring about, so I wanted to go into that.
Yes, please inform the audience on some of that stuff, because we went into a lot of different names. We went into some lawsuits and stuff that are going on with that. Oh, there he is. What's up, Jack?
What's up, Jack?
And for those, I'm sorry for being a little bit late. Me and Jack, we were having a bomb ass conversation. I'll just tell you that much. Talking about a lot of interesting stuff. So, my fault for that. But sorry for getting a little distracted. But happy to see my brothers in the room.
I sent an article link to you, Chris, that we can read. I hope. If not, I'll read it. It's fine.
Thank you, Shadow Band. Finally, somebody called it that. Thank you.
They say that on Twitter all the time. I totally forgot about that. I haven't seen Futurama in years. Thanks, Jack Sith Lord. I think that's good. I don't know. I haven't watched the Star Wars thing.
But yeah, what was that about?
Okay, so this is what you were asking me about. Like, where did she go? Well, they had to make her disappear. Of course.
See, I would have expected an accident.
She has a security advisor. That's lovely. In the months leading up to her 2020 indictment, nobody seemed to know where she was. We never stay in one place for any length of time, Maxwell's security advisor, Matt Hellier, said. They got an exclusive interview with her security advisor. How sweet. And I don't know if this is actually, I think this is actually Yahoo News. No.
Yeah,
of course it's not. It's CBS News originally. Sorry. So CBS News put it out on November 17th. So you guys know. So then it says he helped the socialite. I love how they keep fucking calling her a socialite even now. How about accused trafficker of Epstein's victims? Anyway, I guess that's too many words. He helped her keep a low profile and is speaking about his experience in an upcoming docuseries exclusively for Paramount Plus. Isn't that wonderful? Produced by CBS, which is now putting out this article, and that's not at all promo and PR. Hellier, what a great name, and Maxwell's family were interviewed by the executive consultant for the series, Daphne Barak. Hellier has never spoken on television before about Maxwell. She was the most hunted lady in the US in the world, but she needed to get out, he said. It took minutes for someone to recognize her, take a photo, and send it to the press. And we had to make her disappear again, he said. At one point, Maxwell was thought to be in France with her brother Kevin. He admitted that it was a decoy. So we put two people that look similar to Ghislaine and Kevin in the public eye in a well-known street in Paris, he said. In December 2019, he said Maxwell bought a house on 156 acres in Bradford, New Hampshire. On July 2nd, 2020, federal agents swarmed the property. We thought it was a bit of an overkill. It was more like Hollywood than real life, he said. This is like Hollywood. This is so ridiculous. Maxwell was arrested and charged. We already know all that. The picture that is painted of my sister is 1,000 degrees away from the person that I know, said Isabel Maxwell. Of course she would. Her older sister. She is innocent and she has our love and support. And I'm sure she contributed to the website, realghislaine.com. Look it up. You will die laughing and crying, because that is a website devoted to her and her innocence by her family and friends that they put together. And there's a Star Trek scene literally on the homepage. You got to look it up, guys. realghislaine.com. It's insane. Just check it out. And it's all on archive.org too. And it's in the links on my podcast. Shout out to my podcast, which is also called something we probably can't even say here. So check that out. Then it says, I'm extremely relieved that neither of my parents are alive to see it, because they would have been profoundly shocked, her older brother said. Ian. He has his own questions for his sister's accusers. Can you look me in the eye and tell me honestly that Ghislaine Maxwell was responsible for your abuse? Or was it Jeffrey Epstein really who should be here, not my sister? Well, if they partook in the same activities, sir, I think that she would be, responsible. And also if she was recruiting, which was the allegation as well. There's more about it, but basically it's like them cashing in on the whole trial with this dude who used to work for her. And we are not going to spend 3 minutes reading it, but you guys can read it later. Yeah, it is crazy. And then I found a website that has all of her connections, which is really interesting, of the celebrities that are linked to her. And
yeah, you should tell everybody about the lawsuit.
Oh, the lawsuit.
About the lawsuit. Yeah.
The 1953 trust, that fucking weird ass thing. We got to the bottom of that. Oh my gosh. You just got to listen to the podcast. I'm just going to promote it again, because you will hear us uncensored talking about a lot of this shit. And I guess I'll put realghislaine.com in there, even though you guys can probably remember that, but she does have a weird weird spelling of her name. So you guys can put it in the chat here for y'all to see that shit. Yeah, do they have to release names? I think a lot of stuff is sealed, honestly, and they're, not letting cameras in the courtroom, and we don't get to see her in court, which is interesting. But I do have names that are connected to her here.
Did you put it in the chat again? The link.
Which link?
For the podcast.
Oh, right. Yeah. I'll put it in the private chat. Or he can just retweet it. Yeah. Retweet it. I'm so used to tweeting. Repost it. But yeah.
Whoa.
If I look at this.
Read that comment. The last job I had before quitting construction industry, I was drawing electrical plugs for one of Epstein's old homes.
That's not good.
Be careful, cameras probably have you, in there. Because no telling how many hidden cameras he still probably had up that nobody caught a hold of.
I think those were ultimately...
And go figure, I live like less than 5 minutes away from where he lived in Palm Beach, Such a small fucking world, man, I'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you're not that far from Trump too, right?
No, his punk ass is real close to his the Trump International, the golf course where he always hangs out is that's on my way, when I go see my homie all the time. So I pass that damn near every day.
You know, that's where Rittenhouse came down to visit him at.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not going to go into Rittenhouse this week.
Did you get the
Correct.
article?
We're gonna leave that alone.
Mm-hmm.
I know, right?
I got this weird article with all these names on it, and it was such a random website, but I was like, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and we didn't mention on the I mentioned it in passing because I didn't want to get into it because it's such a weird ass story. You remember when I talked about Epstein's plans with children and whatever? That if you didn't see it, it's in the show notes. This Vanity Fair article in an archive form, where it's talking about. Let me see what the name of it is again, because it's hilarious. No, it's not. It's sad. He wanted to have his penis frozen, and what is the next part?
Whoa!
And brought back to life be brought back to life in the future. Yeah.
By itself?
With a bunch of sperm for ladies. He wanted to have a whole bunch of children, and he froze his sperm and stuff. It was weird. He's a weirdo. It's a good thing he's dead, right? Right, Bill Gates? But anyway, I digress.
Or
see the article?
Let me put that comment back up from Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I'm alluding to. Without saying it. Probably not.
He just retired to the island for good, that's all.
There's a little bit of an echo again. I'm guessing I don't know why. Oh, okay. Well, anyway, the article, I guess I'll just get to the 20 celebrities linked to Ghislaine Maxwell, Jeffrey Epstein's associate. And of course, number one, they have Donald and Melania Trump. Duh. We all know the connection. We don't have to get into that one. Elon Musk, but that's because, have you heard this story about Tallulah Riley and the brother as well? Are they talking about the brother in here? Probably not. But the brother is also connected in a weird way. But it says here that he denied knowing her and that she photobombed him at an event. But then his ex-wife came out with a statement of her own, defending her ex-husband and slamming reports that she handpicked her to be Musk's child bride. But there was this weird story with the brother, but I can't remember any of it, so I'm not going to get into it. But if people remember that story about the brother, put it in the chat because I can't remember. But Alan Dershowitz, of course, who's not going to be, I think he's in a different trial, but not in this one. And then the Clintons, of course, Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea. Let's all remember that Ghislaine Maxwell had a front row seat to Chelsea Clinton's wedding, and there's photographic evidence of that event. And then Prince Andrew, Mick Jagger. He knew everybody, so that makes sense. I'm just giving them excuses now. So it says, when photos of Maxwell dining with Jagger at dinner parties started resurfacing, Jagger was revealed to be part of the Little Black Book. Oh yeah, he was in the Little Black Book, which is not surprising because he's been alleged to have done a lot of things during his career that are not savory. And then the Dubins, Glenn Dubin and his wife, Eva Anderson Dubin, who's also connected to, she met Bill Gates alongside Jeffrey Epstein once. That's right. And then the Dubin's butler, Ronaldo Rizzo, also said that he witnessed Maxwell holding a 15-year-old Swedish girl hostage when she refused to have sex with Epstein. I know I can't even say sex. I'm so scared. And then Naomi Campbell, who has an island that is like the Eye of Horus. Nothing to be worried about there. And she hung out with Virginia, and not really, they didn't hang out, but they were on the same boat together with Epstein and Maxwell. And Virginia was there for allegedly to service certain people. Then there's Claire Hazel, the Countess of Yves. I don't really know who that is, but she married into the Guinness family of beer brewing in 2001, so she was a big person. that they knew. And then NYC Mayor Michael Bloomberg, who is also connected to Trump. They used to play golf with, well, there's a photograph of them playing golf with Rudy Giuliani. So that's interesting. He was photographed with Ghislaine Maxwell on October 1st, 2013 at a book signing event in New York City. And though his political opponents tried to circulate the photo and imply that he and Epstein had extensive ties due to this photograph with Maxwell, it's the only time these two were photographed together. So plausible deniability on that guy. And then Harvard University President Larry Summers. They go all the way back to 2003 when Jeffrey Epstein tried to get into the good graces of the venerated Ivy League University. And he reportedly funded the construction of Harvard's Hillel building and helped establish the program for evolutionary dynamics. And he used to hold guest lectures at the university, and there were many times that Summers appeared on the Lolita Express flight logs alongside Maxwell, sometimes in his presence, sometimes not. Then there's Mark Zuckerberg. A few years ago, the Facebook founder and CEO was a dinner guest of LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman, who was celebrating MIT neuroscientist Ed Boyden. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein were at this dinner too, and this is where the accounts of what happened next differ, so I'm not going to get into it because it's debated, and I'm not going to do that. And then Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak, everybody knows him. He's also in the Little Black Book, and they had dealings with each other. Then there's Leslie Wexner. I don't know why he's number 14 because he's like the head of the snake, allegedly. So we all know his, role in this. Jeff Bezos, considered a working class hero, to whom? Okay. But he too seems to have a Ghislaine Maxwell connection, according to one report. She was a guest of Bezos' 2018 campfire retreat, and reportedly that was the third time she'd attended the exclusive literary event. Bezos never returned any requests for comment about the matter, and nobody seems to give a shit now. And then Maine Senator George Mitchell has both... no, I'm not going to read that. But when the retired senator was named as an associate of hers, courtesy of Virginia Roberts Giuffre's lawsuit, his life seemed to immediately go into a tailspin. However, Mitchell, who was once called the world's greatest negotiator by Jeffrey Epstein, quickly and immediately denied the claims. He denied ever meeting Giuffre, and an unnamed man claims he only saw him one time at Epstein's Palm Beach mansion. So there you go. And then Kevin Spacey used to hang out with Ghislaine Maxwell. There's a picture of them at the Buckingham Palace on the thrones, and I put that in my avatar last week. And then Roger Waters of Pink Floyd, yes, that guy, was at a dinner party photographed with her. The duo seemed to be engaged in a pretty deep conversation. However, this seems to be the only time that the duo was photographed together, and Waters seems to have no other connection to either Maxwell or Epstein. Then 19, of course, is Bill Gates, who is probably one of the most prolific ones on here, and yet he's at the bottom. And he's also mentioned in the Little Black Book, listed there, and has met them on many occasions, and is glad that he's dead. And then 20 is Chris Tucker. Poor Chris Tucker. I'm sure he had all good intentions, but that just does not look good. 2002, he was on an AIDS Africa trip, humanitarian thing with Clinton and Maxwell and Kevin Spacey. I don't know why they don't say Clinton here. I think Clinton was there because it was the Clinton Foundation. But anyway, Kevin Spacey, just not where you want to be. Damn, that's a rough one. But Virginia did say, I think she was there. Not Virginia. I don't know who it was, but one of the alleged survivors of the abuse of Jeffrey Epstein had come out and said that he was a perfect gentleman. There was they said that about Bill Clinton too. So that trip seemingly wasn't like a sex trip, I guess. So there's that. So that's like the whole list that they have there.
7 Degrees, which is Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yep, everybody knows it. Well, but she is a rich socialite. I mean, they're going to be around everybody. So, I mean, Yep, that's the story. That's how the cookie crumbles. So I guess we'll go on ahead and we'll move on to our final topic. And we're going to talk about the Ahmaud Arbery verdict. I guess I'll set it up for those who, I guess everybody should be familiar with it. But I figured, we still needed to talk about it because I'll tell you honestly, I was after how the Rittenhouse kind of thing was kind of going a little wishy washy. I had no clue how this case was going to go, and I wouldn't be
Wait,
surprised,
seriously?
especially.
Oh,
Well, I was going to say,
I
knowing how
thought
the the Amber Geiger thing, she just came up for appeal to try to get her time reduced. Now, granted, they shot her down, but think
okay.
she only got 10 years for literally walking into the wrong apartment and shooting an innocent person. And so when you get to these southern states, I get a little worried about what's going to, how things are going to go down. What were you going to say, E?
No, I was going to say, I kind of figured they were gonna go. I kind of figured they were gonna go guilty a little bit. I mean, it was right before Thanksgiving. A Girl Scout could have been on trial for jaywalking, and they probably would have given her a chair just so they wouldn't have to spend Thanksgiving and deliberating in jury duty. So, wasn't too surprised, but I have a deeper thought about that. You can go ahead and
yeah, I guess let's go on ahead and I got a clip I wanted to share from what is it, one of the affiliates out of Jacksonville, and believe it or not, like they were probably one of the best ones that were on top of the case. It happened, I guess. Trying to remember, what's that? Can't remember the county, Clark County, I believe, and that is like really, really close to North Florida. So I guess that's why they were so on top of everything. So I wanted to share this clip. So for those who had not followed what it went on with that case, and why I feel like the guilty verdict, and I guess spoiler, I do believe that yes, they were all guilty. And I guess I'll go in more detail why, but let's go ahead and play this clip first, and then you guys can get, our thoughts on the clip. Go ahead, Chris.
Detailed testimony from the lead investigator in the Ahmaud Arbery case could play a role in possible federal hate crime charges.
We heard from that investigator at yesterday's hearing when a judge ruled there is enough evidence to try Gregory McMichael, Travis McMichael, and William Roddy Bryan for murder. News4 Jax I-Team investigator Kelly Wiley shows us how the timeline is being filled out.
The lead investigator in the death of Ahmaud Arbery took the stand in Thursday's preliminary hearing. Between 911 logs, home surveillance video, witness statements, and cell phone video from one of the defendants, he says his team with the GBI was able to piece together what happened to the 25-year-old that day. Surveillance video from across the street obtained by the Atlanta Journal-Constitution shows the house under construction. Around 1:04 in the afternoon, you see Ahmaud Arbery go into the house. Motion-sensitive cameras inside the house capture Arbery wandering around, walk out, and then go behind the home. In the video around 1:08, you see a neighbor walk in front of 219 Satilla and call police.
There's a guy in the house right now. It's a house under construction.
And you said someone's breaking into it right now?
No, it's all open. It's under construction.
30 seconds into the call, he tells the dispatcher Arbery is now running down the street.
And he's running right now. There he goes right now.
Okay, what is he doing?
He's running down the street.
The lead investigator on the case said further down Satilla Road, Greg McMichael was standing in his yard when he says Ahmaud Arbery ran past their home. According to police reports, McMichael said he and his son got their guns, got in their truck, and drove down Satilla Drive toward Burford Drive to pursue Arbery. When they reached the intersection of homes in Satilla Drive, the senior McMichael says they saw Arbery running down a street called Burford Drive. According to the lead investigator, the McMichaels catch up with Arbery and yell for him to stop. The other suspect in the case, Roddy Bryan, is outside his house at 307 Burford Road at this point, when Arbery and a truck he recognizes from the neighborhood passes his home on Burford.
So then he yells, "You got him." He doesn't get a response. Mr. Bryan, according to his statement, then goes into his residence, gets the keys to his truck, comes out and cranks up his truck with the intention of assisting in the pursuit.
At this point, investigators say Greg McMichael got out of his truck to confront Arbery. Arbery is running back towards Satilla, which would lead him right out of the neighborhood.
According to Greg McMichael and Travis McMichael's statement, Greg McMichael comes back to Travis McMichael's truck and tells him, go back, back up, trying to encourage Travis McMichael to back the vehicle up and engage Mr. Arbery.
It's at this point Roddy Bryan pulls out of his driveway onto the road to block Ahmaud Arbery. Investigators say Arbery is able to go around the truck. It's also at this point that Greg McMichael goes back to the truck, gets into the bed of it, and Travis McMichael drive up Burford to Zellwood Drive. The lead investigators say they had the intention to loop around and catch back up with Arbery at the intersection of Holmes and Satilla. GBI investigators say at this point, Bryan admitted to trying to block Arbery several more times with his truck. Investigators say they also found evidence that at some point, Bryan hit Arbery with his truck.
At this point, Mr. Arbery is heading back the way he's come, which would lead him out of the Satilla Shores neighborhood. Mr. Bryan makes statements that he continues to try to block in Mr. Arbery. Mr. Arbery takes a right turn on Holmes Road, and Mr. Bryan is actually overshoots him going Satilla.
Investigator Dial testified that Bryan remaneuvered his truck to follow Arbery down Holmes Road. But at some point, Arbery stopped. Dial says Arbery saw the McMichael's truck turn off of Zellwood Drive onto Holmes Road and drive towards him.
So you got one vehicle coming one way down Holmes Road and another vehicle coming another way, and Mr. Arbery is in between them. So at some point, Mr. Arbery turns around and starts heading back towards Mr. Bryan.
According to Dial, Bryan made statements that Arbery turned around and ran past his truck, and then the McMichael's truck passed him, all going back towards Satilla Drive. At some point, the McMichaels got in front of Ahmaud Arbery, and Bryan turned his truck around too. It's at this point, investigator Dial says Roddy Bryan picked up his phone that had already been recording off of his seat and points it at the McMichael's truck. It's also at this point that Greg McMichael calls 911 for the first time.
The driver's side door is open. Travis McMichael is there. It is apparent to me he is holding a firearm. His arm is raised as it's in a pointed position at one point. Then then Mr. Arbery is running. He then apparently sees what Travis McMichael in front of him. Then he changes direction to go around the passenger side of the vehicle. Travis McMichael then moves from the driver's side, where he's actually standing. When you open a driver's side door, the door is at his back initially in the video, and he's got the shotgun. He then positions himself around the driver's side door towards the front of the truck. You see Mr. Arbery running alongside the passenger side. And again, you see Travis McMichael has repositioned himself along the front of the truck. Mr. Arbery then comes up to a position, sees Travis McMichael, then makes a decision and turns and decides to engage Travis McMichael. As he turns and goes toward Travis McMichael, you hear a shot. Then you see Travis McMichael moving backwards with Mr. Arbery. Obviously, they are engaged in a physical confrontation at this point. They go off the screen. You then hear a second shot where you see blood and spray into the screen, a mist of it. Then they come back in to the view of the camera. There, Mr. Arbery is striking Travis McMichael. There's a struggle going on, and then you see a third shot occur.
Months later in May, Roddy Bryan told police he heard Travis McMichael say something as Ahmaud Arbery laid on the ground, bleeding out.
After the shooting took place, before police arrival, while Mr. Arbery was on the ground, that he heard Travis McMichael make the statement.
Kelly Wiley, Channel 4, the local station.
During closing statements, Travis McMichael's attorney said issues in the neighborhood, such as thefts, led to the incident, and that Travis McMichael used self-defense when Arbery attacked him. It's not clear when the case will go to trial. A different judge will have to decide whether to allow the men to go free on bond.
Yeah, so I want to lay that out because that went in detail, breaking everything down clearly. What were we gonna say, Chris?
No, it's just tough, because we have to balance. We have to look at the law, and then we have to look at what we know these people to be, and then we have to go through the motions to get them where they belong. It's frustrating, it's 2021, we're still dealing with this shit. As Mr. Street said, had it not been for social media, who knows where this case would even be at this point, then we're talking about like shitty defense attorneys and overzealous
not
prosecution, or not enough, or bad prosecutors, or look, you can just look at these things and know what's right and what isn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, fuck the law. You just know what's right. In terms of, like, your moral code should tell you what's wrong or right when you look at these things. If you feel as if there's a middle ground to some of these things, then that's really an issue that you have, and maybe you should get help for it. Maybe not. Just stay away from people such as myself. But it's quite clear what went on in this particular case, man. Those guys are just making a sport out of chasing this guy. And again, it's just like the similarities between this and the Rittenhouse case. What is the first similarity that jumps out, right? In the Arbery case, it was, he was in an abandoned building, right? So we have to do something because he could just be stealing some cement. All right, whatever. Rittenhouse case. They're going to riot and they could possibly destroy a Target or a CVS or a Best Buy, what have you. As if all these places don't have fucking insurance to cover the bill. We're not really talking about mom and pop store for the most part. So again, they put a certain segment of the population will put property, inanimate objects, over human beings. Then we can get into all the law shit about, well, this, that. Nah, fuck that. Let's keep in mind what's setting these people off. It was seeing somebody at a construction site. In the Rittenhouse case, what prompted him to take his little yellow belly ass over there was the people being upset over a cop shooting somebody. Look at what is triggering these people. There's something wrong here. So I'm just saying, it's best to watch your surroundings and just be very mindful. Don't walk up on construction sites. Don't be upset if a police shoots somebody. Don't be upset about the government. I guess it's okay to be upset about COVID, but anything other than that, you can't be upset about. You just kind of got to deal with it. And I think you understand what I'm saying, Marcus.
Oh, I get what you're saying.
Okay, can I wanted to I just wanted to elaborate on my point. If we're going to talk about the aspect, the reason why I thought they were going to be guilty is because they needed something to offset. I think the media and the social elite needed something to offset Rittenhouse. It's just like when Rittenhouse was sitting on Fox News and saying, I support Black Lives Matter, right? It felt like it felt like the same energy, right? And this is just something I noticed, when they start talking about protecting property, it reminds me of the Southern Strategy by Lee Atwater. You know what they're talking about when they say we're going out there and we're protecting Target, and we're going out there and we're protecting the property. We know what they mean. We know what they're saying. You can't actually say it if you know Southern Strategy. You can't actually say it out loud, but if you phrase it in a way that sounds general, right? You can be stealthy about it. So they're just trying to clean it up. That's what I meant to say. I wasn't saying like the law doesn't work or anything like that. I don't particularly think that it does, but they just needed something to offset that.
I think in this case, it was just so blatant. It would have been it would have been really ugly if he got off on this somehow, because there were so many other things. If you felt this guy is stealing from a construction site, for one, what the hell do you think he's stealing? Like Chris said, Kelly said, yeah, did Chris say steal cement? You have to be pretty strong for that. But I mean, that's the thing. Was he stealing nails? I mean, what is he? Was he going to steal the drywall? I mean, what is he going to steal? And on top of it, like I saw somebody saying in the chat, you know, maybe this is like a psyop or something. It's not a psyop, because if you knew how many different people tried to cover this thing up, I mean, what you have is you have a former police officer, which he retired literally like only a few months before this, the father. The son grows up with this hard right-wing mentality of, you know, law enforcement is always good, and certain other people just happen to fit the description of being a criminal. The story is that they had break-ins in their neighborhoods. And here, I'll tell you something, being a former corrections officer, most robberies and break-ins, you know the damn people who stole the shit from you. Majority of the time. It ain't just some fucker who came from 3 blocks away and been casing your house. No, it's somebody who's been in your house, more than likely one of your kids' friends, or, you know, an uncle or a cousin or something like that. I've had my house broken into a couple of times growing up as a kid, and it was a fucking family member most of the damn time. They covered this case up because prosecutors and law enforcement have a close bond and they protect each other. And especially in these backwater towns in Georgia. Emmanuel knows he lives in Georgia.
Yeah.
Chris is in South Florida. I lived in North Florida. I lived literally about maybe 2 hours from this place. So I know the mentality of people like this. This ain't a psyop type of thing. And this goes into literally what happened in what's going on in my hometown right now, in Kansas City, in Wyandotte County, where Jay-Z's Rock Nation law firms has gotten involved in the cases there because of all the corruption that's going up and all the cover-ups between law enforcement to the prosecutor and DA and the court system and all of these things that are going on that are being covered up. It also was found
Hey, quick question, real quick. Did they
Sure.
say any of the McMichael? Did they say the McMichael or the third guy involved? Did any of them make contact with law enforcement before actually making contact with Arbery?
Right before, at the very end. Like they started off, they went and grabbed their guns and followed him and chased him. And when they finally decided to cut him off, then one of them called the police. Then. So
okay,
it was at the very end. And like El said, the dumbass who literally hit him with his truck, that's the one who was filming. That evidence is literally what brought them down.
Correct. Thank God they were not. Thank God. I mean, there's nothing.
No. Thank God that it caught their dumbasses.
Yeah, their stupidity and their ignorance led them to be behind bars right now. You know,
They have
it's
no
kind
one
of
to
like
blame but themselves.
Correct.
Yeah.
And it's reminiscent of Trayvon with that pussy ass George Zimmerman, right? They talk to the cop and they're like, yo, leave it alone. And you pursue it anyway, and then this kid beats your ass and he ends up dead. You know, so they really just want to they really want to be the judge, jury, and executioner at all times. And they wouldn't be able to walk from it. Thank God, you know, there is I keep saying that. I should stop saying it. At least there's a system that can send some of them to prison for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, I tell people that, you know, when you live in certain other places, or maybe you're just in a certain community where that doesn't happen with you, or maybe in your group of friends, you don't have anybody who think the way these people do. It doesn't mean that this thinking is went away and it's gone. It's still racist ass people like this who still think this way, who automatically see somebody of a darker complexion running through their neighborhood and automatically they're guilty before proven innocent. And that's part of, I guess, where some of the frustration comes in with a lot of people with this Rittenhouse thing, no matter how you feel on it. When it happens to be, of a paler complexion, Rittenhouse literally just shot 3 people, whether you want to say self-defense or not, literally shot 3 people, and he's trying to turn himself into cops. And they're just telling him, get out of the road. He could have literally just went home. He could have, hopped in the car. I mean, Wisconsin is not that far from Canada. Dude could have been gone and not even saw trial that easily. And it almost seems like when it's somebody of a darker complexion, they're guilty and have to prove they're innocent. And that's where this frustration comes in from a lot of people like me and the rest of the people. I know some of you in the chat feel the same way. No matter what's your skin complexion is, this mentality and living in Georgia and Florida and places like that, this is still very prevalent. This is still a problem. This isn't some kind of psyop. This got buried, and only because that video got popped up, this would have never even happened. These guys would have not even been on trial at all. And this would have been just whatever story they came up with. Just like the whole Trayvon Martin thing, how he got off, because you have a court system which is biased towards other people, and automatically you're going to say, you know what, you need to prove that you're innocent first. And I mean, I applaud those out there who are willing to call this stuff out, especially when you're on the other side of it, when you might possibly be benefiting from white privilege and you're able to say, no, that's exactly what it is. When I was working at Lowe's, and I had one of the major people come out, contractors. He did probably 15 to 20 million a year with my store. And he came out and he was like, I'm just blown away talking to your store managers, just how racist that these guys are. They might smile in your face and everything seems perfectly fine, but these guys really do hate you and people like you. And he was just kind of jarred by it. And it's not just some kind of law enforcement. There are people like this who are all throughout, the different career fields and jobs that we deal with. And though they might not ever say it, their actions, a lot of times, we might see it. But because once they get around another white person who they know doesn't think that way, they know how to flip it and switch and not talk about those things like that. Or maybe when there aren't other minorities around, those subjects don't come up for them to present how they truly feel. And it's like, we got to realize, even though it's 2021, this is not a problem. This is not something that we've gotten past. This is something that is still going on. I mean, it's sad and frustrating to me that it had to take for somebody to actually find this for it to happen, because it sits in the back of my mind. More than likely, they would have got away with this completely. Elle made a couple of comments in there, good points. Elle, would you like to add something?
No, it's just like, how much can I say? I grew up in the South, obviously. I grew up in Georgia and saw a lot of racism. And it's like the thing that you do say when you're like white and you have black friends is such like a cliche, but, we had a very diverse class of people, all types of lifestyles, all types of viewpoints, all types of children, in class. The Navajo were there, and we had like Latinos and we had like Black people, of course, in that school. And my mother told me recently, like, a year ago, I think, that she specifically made it so that I could be in the most melting pot of school, because she grew up in a very segregated kind of, even though it was like the 60s when she was like a child or whatever. I guess I'm showing her age, sorry, and mine. But anyway, she grew up and she was put with a bunch of white people, and it made her wonder about certain things, and she wasn't able to really understand her coworkers when she began to work around people who weren't white. And she learned a little bit more about everybody's culture and everybody's, what their upbringings were and everything. So she wanted us to have the same kind of experience, not the same experience that she had, but something that was fulfilling, and you could learn from different cultures and different people and what they were dealing with in their situations at home and everything. And so I was around a lot of different kinds of people growing up. So I had friends who were, it just didn't even occur to me to wonder about their ethnicity or anything. So seeing some of the things I saw on television and everything, and growing up, and some of the things that my family members, I'm not going to call them out, but some of them would say, made me very uncomfortable because of that upbringing, which was ironic if you think about it, because, well, not really ironic. I don't want to, never mind. I'm not going to say anything about my family, but they say certain things. They would say things to get on my nerves because they knew how much I hated racism. So I'm like the least, I hate to say it because it sounds so fucking stupid and pretentious, but I'm the least racist person in my family, which is weird. Or seemingly so, because they would like to make jokes and stuff, and I just wouldn't agree with it. But also in school, I will say, we had like a progressive school and everything, and we had a lot of different material that we read about certain situations, like the, what was it called? Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. We read that as a child, and it was very
great book.
Informative.
I
Yeah.
love that book.
Yeah, we read a lot of interesting kind of books. We also read the Huckleberry Finn thing to balance it out. And that was interesting. But we learned a lot. And so seeing some of the things that I see now is just kind of like, it's BS. It's like, it's upbringing. It really is your environment. And these McMichaels or whatever probably had racist parents or whatever who had, have you seen, guys, the American History X movie? Because that's what it's kind of giving me vibes of. Like, you just think you're doing the right thing for some reason because you see something, stealing is like the worst thing you can imagine or something. I don't know what they were thinking exactly was, but stealing is just not on the top of my list of crimes to worry about in my daily life. Because I see that I empathize with people, and I think that if you're going to that extreme, which of course we got to say, Ahmaud Arbery, there's no fucking evidence that he was stealing anything, as we have said before. There's literally no evidence that came up during the trial that pointed to him being anything that they tried to make him out to be, which was a really dumb fucking move from them. But they had no move. What do you do when you have no move? You just try to paint the victim as the aggressor or whatever the fuck they want to do. That's what you do when you have no fucking move and you got racists and, But anyway, if stealing is at the top of your list of things to worry about, you have a pretty good life, I think. And you should just be grateful for that. And maybe mind your own business. Mind your own fucking business. That's what we should take away from this. Ultimately, just mind your own fucking business. Unless somebody's really getting hurt in front of you, don't fucking interfere. You don't know that person and what they're doing. And you're fucking assuming shit about people that you don't even know. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I've seen too much of this shit.
Marcus.
Yep.
To Kelly's comment where she said it's Schadenfreude. It's going to be rough for a chubby ginger racist in a prison in Georgia. Unfortunately, we tend to think it's going to be like that, but for these high-profile cases, they put guys like those McMichael dudes. They don't put them in general population. They're going to be segregated. They'll probably be with like the pedophiles and shit.
No,
They won't even be
not
around.
not necessarily. You got to remember, in every prison, you have the white guys who are going to protect each other, and he's going to just join into the whites and the skinheads and the Nazis, because that's how prison is set up when you get to actual prison. And if you're black, even if you're not racist, you're going to be forced to be with only blacks. You're going to be, if you look Latino, you're going to be forced to be Latino. Even if you're Native American, a lot of times Native American, you're going to be forced to stick with it. It doesn't matter if your best friend was white growing up, you're going to be forced into that kind of dynamic for protection in a sense. And that's just how it breaks down to primordial racism. It kind of cracks me up and makes me wonder when I watch some of the numbers go down. When we talk about this topic, it makes me wonder because it tells me maybe some of these people who are supposed to be care about these issues and allies, it shows me that maybe they're not as much allies as we would think. Shout out to Jack in there because he's saying a couple of things which I'd like to hear from allies, in these kind of situations. What was it? Yeah, there's a lot of good comments in here. It's just that these kind of situations frustrate me, and it's hard to talk about. No, they won't get them. I'm telling you, I worked in corrections. White boys can sit there and have you. I don't know what people think, but there are white gangs in prison. There are skinheads who are going to protect him. There are people who are going to raise him up as a hero. There are people. That's just how the cookie crumbles. So no, I don't see. Oh well, it's going to be some kind of black justice that's going to happen. No, he's going to be looked at as a hero to some of those racist people in jail. He's going to be protected. And also, you got to remember, he is, the law enforcement and the correction guards are going to protect him also, because a lot of them, you know what? We got that other video, Chris. Let's cue that one up, because that shows you the mentality of why these guys why it took so much to even get them on trial in the first place. Because there is the mentality which is not thought about as often. There is a protection for people like this. That's the reason why this kind of thing pervades on and on and on. What was her name? Cece. When I had Cece Mank on here, she broke down the whole thing with how the KKK had completely infiltrated every part of the local government in Kansas City, from the judges to the police department to all the high-ranking positions. They were everywhere. And even if you get one or two out, they're still there. They still have control, and they're going to protect their people. If anybody, and the thing about it is, you want to know how corrections guards control a prison? Because anybody knows if they lay a hand on the correction guard, you're looking at massive amount of years. That's how a small handful can control a whole mass of people. It's the same thing that happens in a prison. If they decide certain people are untouchable and you touch them, now you're looking at catching life sentences and things like that. So I don't have a lot of confidence that, they'll take care of them on the inside. I don't believe that. You got that clip, Chris? Because I want to the one with how law enforcement was treating him when he was off just sitting in his car.
From 2017?
Yeah, from 2017.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Because if it was the case that they take care of him, then Georgia prisons wouldn't have any white people who have killed black people under racist circumstances in there, but they do.
just very angry. Listen, man. What are you doing out here? You just chilling?
Chilling, bro. I'm rapping in the car. Instrumentals.
Okay. That's fine. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. I get that you're working.
What else you want from me?
I'm just trying to figure out what's going on out here, man.
I'm working, rapping, I rap.
Okay. I know you're just acting you're jumping around, getting a little bit nervous on me. I think I see something plastic in the thing over here.
Go ahead, bro. You can't go in my car.
You're not allowing me to search your car?
You can't go in my.
I'm not asking you. Just don't reach the car, man.
You can't have your pocket.
Hands out your pocket.
Down. Warning, down.
Stay on the ground. Just stay on the ground, okay?
Keep your hands out.
I've already checked for weapons. I've checked for weapons.
Okay.
Listen, man. I'm not here to mess with you, okay? I've been cool with you the entire time. You get out of the car, you come up on me, okay? I get that, man, and I'm just here to make sure everything's okay. I don't know you.
Yo, that shit is annoying to sit there and to have been in, like, you know, when people say triggering circumstances, it's real triggering to watch this shit like that after having been in these circumstances, knowing that you weren't riding dirty, you know, you
were doing nothing wrong, and a cop just needs to fuck with you.
And they sit there and talk to you like you some type of idiot, like you some type of pendejo who don't understand what the fuck is going on.
I was nice to you. I was nice to you. No, if you were nice to me, you would have left me the fuck alone.
After I told you I was rapping, I'm standing here in front of you making all these hand gestures. Clearly, I'm not a fucking magician. I cannot make weapons appear in my goddamn hand, and you still treating me as such. You bust off your taser and you missed. Like, they had me on the floor. They had me on my.
Well, that's the thing, Chris.
No,
before you say that,
yeah.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say they had me on my stomach, handcuffed, my hands behind my back, and because I wouldn't stop talking shit to them, two of them tased me at the same time. And when my homeboys was trying to actually record the incident as it took place, they chased one of them across the street because he wouldn't stop recording. So again, I'm listening to this, I see this, I read the comments from people, and I'm just like, they don't understand, man. They just really don't, Marcus. And it's in the 21st century, and you can't.
The first officer had already patted him down. This officer now, it kind of was a little delayed and slow. But if you see it, his hands are out. He's like, "Get your hands away from your side. Get your hands away from your side." And he just pulled the taser. Just starts. His hands were completely out, and it shows you cops like this. That you can't give an instruction to somebody at the same time you're pulling the taser. You can't shoot the taser and tell them don't move. It's just like when I watch ones where they're tasing somebody. They're like, "Give me your hands." You're fucking tasing me. How can I give you my hands? When you tase somebody, they have no control over their body. I've had times where cops have been on my back, knee all in my back, talking about turn over, turn. I can't turn. You're on top of me.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, the stuff which Chris is talking about, this Ahmaud Arbery situation, this is not uncommon. And I guess this kind of frustrates me because I felt like I gave a pretty nuanced, opinion of what happened with the Rittenhouse thing, and took my personal feelings out. And when I have somebody who tells me that, "Oh, well, if you can't get past your vengeance and your rage, then we can't get past racism," and I'm sitting there like,
who told you that? Who told you that foolishness? Who said that?
I won't say their name. I'll tell you off camera. But this is somebody who self-professed has told me that they grew up in a privileged area. A white woman. She's grown up in a privileged area, never experienced any of this stuff. And she's telling me how we can get past racism. And I'm like, you've never experienced any of this shit. That's a reality for me. And it's not like, oh, this is one unique story that just happened to me. This thing which we're saying with Ahmaud Arbery, this is not unique. I guarantee you at least 75% of black males that you know of has had some kind of scenario like this. This is, and I'm not talking about 20 years ago, I'm talking about today. You can ask damn near any black people you know, and they have some kind of situation, some altercation with police that went, it maybe not have gotten tased. Maybe they got pepper spray. Maybe they got their hand slammed against the hood. Maybe, like when I was 14, I got robbed by police officers. Police officers literally stole my paycheck, which had my paycheck wrapped around it, my paycheck stuff wrapped around it, and said, I'm going to take this money because it looks like you got it from drug dealing.
Mm-hmm. Where'd you get that knot from?
I made $4.25 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
And I was gonna say, and really, one side will tell you, "Oh, just comply, and none of this would happen," you know, and then the other side wants to tell you, like, "Oh, this is sad, but you shouldn't be angry about it. You should try to get over it."
Oh yeah, I love that one. Don't get mad; it doesn't help.
Correct. Like, oh, you're just letting your anger,
cloud the
fuel
situation,
right? Your opinions, and it's just like, for one side, I want to tell them to shut the fuck up, and the other side who's saying just comply and just comply with the COVID rules too. Shut the fuck up, just comply. You won't have a problem. Go get your jab. Stop crying. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really want to tell that to some of them, since they so much about this compliance bullshit.
Or quit complaining about taxes all the time. Those same people will complain about paying taxes and, oh, it's tyranny and I'm so oppressed because I have to pay taxes on my $200,000 I make a year. I'm just saying, I listen to people, and it's like some people can only see the minor little things that happen to them. It kind of like remind me of when you can go into the early 1900s and look at all the black towns which were burned completely to the ground. And most of the time, it was over a story of, just like Emmett Till, where a white woman lied about the little boy whistling at her. And so because he allegedly whistled at her, that's ground to just go destroy a whole damn town and massacre and just do whatever to somebody. And it's that mentality of, if you even somewhat offend me, then I can do whatever I want to you. And you shouldn't even, and my thing is, that person who I've had this conversation with, they tried to use the Rittenhouse thing. Well, I guess what started really ticking me off is they tried to compare the Rittenhouse thing to the Black Panthers. And say how that was similar. I'm like, I don't think it can get any more offensive than that. And then they said, but in all these riots, there's been 25 people who were killed in all of these riots over the past year or so, whatever, and try to say that that's an equal comparison. When you literally have, you go into black and brown, you have about 30 who were killed by officers in dubious circumstances every 24 hours. And try to say, well, 25 people possibly got harmed during riots. And
Marcus, did this happen on Discord?
Yeah, it happened on Discord. In fact, look in the political matrix Discord.
I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
I know you're. Yes.
I was gonna kick her out, but I said no, I'm not gonna do that. So other people can read the message. I'll just block her. I'll block her so I don't pay attention to any more of her dumbass comments. This is the same person who feels like Catholics are being persecuted the same as minority groups. Yeah, that shit's fucking crazy. Who we're talking about? I'm like, you realize Catholics have probably one of the highest body counts in the world of anybody.
They the biggest pedophiles too. Their whole institution, like their entire shit is based on
That's the oppression. If you mention the fact that Catholics have a big problem with pedophiles, then now you're persecuting Catholics.
Well, I wouldn't care what that person had to say. They shuffled abusers around like it was nothing. Like, oh yeah, you done some
Like a
damage
shell
here in
game.
Pennsylvania. Let's send you to Ohio. And then after you fucked up in Ohio, let's send you down to Florida. And then you can go to Colorado. Matter of fact, you could just take worldwide trips abusing all these kids. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes, Catholics do think they're oppressed.
Yeah.
They own the most
Yeah,
land
they do.
via imperialism and slavery. Yes, they were the same
Mm-hmm.
people who were running around saying, if you don't become a Catholic, you're going to get murdered. And in fact, they're the ones who crucified a lot of people. Let me bring L's comment back up. Yes, they did. They exactly did that.
That was their original purpose, confessions. And now they do that with the Scientologists. They do the whole confession thing. They've
Yep.
modeled their shit after
And
Catholics.
going to Mr. Street's comments, that I couldn't agree more. This stuff is not going to change. It doesn't matter who you vote into office, who you for, who you're against. Is never going to change, unfortunately. It's just what it is. And that's what I always say. You got to take care of you and your own, and that's about it. You cannot save the world. You start to, you think, I'm enjoying these movements. I mean, like, even let's just take a small snapshot of something like quote unquote leftist Twitter. Let something come up about as it pertains to race. They quickly show you how much they are just like their conservative brethren.
Yeah.
There's very little difference.
Oh, remember,
on
Chris?
certain matters.
Remember, Chris? I'm a boogaloo boy, right? Yeah, I got called a what? No, I got called a proud boy. Was that what it was, Chris? I'm a proud boy.
Proud boy.
Wow.
Yeah, do call Marcus a proud boy because he didn't agree with everything, all of the propaganda coming from, the likes of Pfizer or the United States government or their spokespeople as it relates to the pandemic. So Marcus, gave his opinion on a few things, and the person told him he was a proud boy. And again, this is supposed to be a leftist. Right?
Yeah.
So
Who literally calls himself a radical in his term. Oh, it was Jack. It was the eclectic radical.
Man.
Yeah.
It happens all the time, bro. And then, he ended up blocking me too, and I ain't even go at him hard. I ain't even, like, what I was saying while I was holding the phone, he was lucky that wasn't coming out. My fingers were actually being very diplomatic, unlike my tongue. So, and he still blocked me anyway. But, I mean, I expected that. But going back to what Mr. Street said, you really do have to take care of your own. You can't look to be too much part of the larger group because when certain shit happens, they will turn against you. So just, treat this like The Walking Dead, build your own shit, be very cautious, and, go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate those who can be allies to us and understand and sympathize and empathize with what we're going through. And you just realize that, some of this stuff, it's not going away anytime soon. We can't, but at the same time, we can't get to the point where everybody's the enemy because of these things, So we got to judge, each person by their own merits and their own characters. But at the same time, you do got to guard your grill.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like, I mean, look, it's ignorance to treat everything and everybody the same way, right? So I would never tell people to be that ignorant. But I would just tell you to be cautious, be careful, be mindful, think about things, right? Just don't accept everything for what they say. You kind of have to see people's actions as well. So yeah, I would never just say use a blanket for every situation.
Yeah,
because it's not going to work.
In fact, just look at Jack's avatar and read what it says there. It says, "Stay paranoid and trust no one."
I agree. It's the whole system.
I mean, I agree that and I take a lot of my direction, as you all know, from the Bible. The Bible says you got to prove a friend. I mean, there's a lot of good pearls and nuggets once you get into like Proverbs and Psalms. But a lot of people just want to just say, "Oh, it's all about turning the other cheek." It also tells you to be careful too. So, I guess that's all I really have to say on that. Anybody else have anything that they wanted to add on that topic before we get ready to close it on out for the night?
I put it in the chat, but fuck the fraternity of police. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I missed my cue again.
No love for them at all.
We had a lot.
Remember, they're a fraternity.
Oh yeah.
Look, we had a lot of information given to us about the two last high-profile court cases, which would have been Rittenhouse and the McMichael Arbery case. To tie this all together with the Ghislaine case, that shit we gonna hear as the days go by. We'll hear less and less.
Oh yeah. Oh definitely. This shit. She's just gonna disappear out of the news more and more and more. And then they'll probably be like, "Oh well, we give her a 2-year sentence and time served, and then she's gonna whisk away to I won't say where I think she's going, but I think she'll go where her father was a secret agent to. I think that's where she'll end up going, because I think we'll find that Epstein and Ghislaine are all tied in to a certain group of people who like to, I guess, gather a lot of information on people and use it against them. I guess I'll leave it there and be vague and hope that you guys can all figure it out.
We know what that is. All right.
And make sure you all check out make sure you check out that podcast I did over there with Elle. Make sure you go and check out everybody who's popped in. Atris, make sure you go check out his channel. He does some good live streams and talks about a lot of interesting things. Blue Moon, make sure you go check out her channel also. Every content creator in here, Franco came through. Make sure you check his content out. I want to make sure that we plug all of our friends who came through, and make sure that we have unity and cooperation throughout, this independent sphere, because that's the only weapon that we really have is our voice. I don't advocate actual physical violence like some people do out there, because with my background in weapons, especially with military, I know that we don't have anything that's going to dare be able to try to fight back against what the military and the government actually has if they decide to say, you know what, we can't control the masses by, light work. We just got to go ahead and authoritarian crackdown. When they get to that point, and they don't care about public opinion anymore, that's when you'll see what they really have and what they can really do. And that's when things are going to get scary. Hopefully we're not around for that, but, just saying.
Appreciate it, guys.
Thank you. And I was going to say, I'm not sure, but possibly, Cy Lawson here is going to be joining myself and Jalen Lawson for Talk of the Ages, we're going to talk about woke culture, the MCU, and a lot of interesting things over there. Stuff which they're doing in the entertainment industry and cancel culture, and it's gonna touch a lot of different subjects. So I'll make sure to try to put that out and enough notice. I'll try to put it out on Discord, through my Twitter, everywhere that I can. And if you guys can see it, also help plug it out. Patris, eventually, I do want to get you on here, one of these streams, and a lot of these different content creators. I want to get all of you guys on here for one of these streams here and there. Just reach out to me, let me know, DM me, whatever. If you have my phone number, call me up, text me, whatever. But that's it. I guess that's all we have. So thank you all for joining us, and especially those on the East Coast and other areas where they have to stay up a little bit later. And for those who are going to catch us on the other time around, Jay Lawson, yes, he is.
Yes, he is. They look alike. You watch him. He looks just like his father. He looks just
not only does he look just like him, the mannerisms. I'm telling you, sometimes it blows my mind because you guys seen that movie Gemini Man? That's what it's like. It's like if Chris all of a sudden turned 19 in front of me and I'm having a conversation with him. It's freaky sometimes. It really is freaky sometimes. I mean, they both got that kind of part New York, Florida kind of accent going. Even the way like they'll like lean and be sitting posture and all that, and the way they might. I kid you not.
I know. I see it
talking
too
about something off camera, and both of them did something similar on two different topics. It was crazy how I was like, that's definitely his son. Boy, that's his son. But yeah, he's raising him up. He's sharp, and he's getting more and more comfortable with hopping on camera and doing more of this. So I want to get him to a point where he can actually really, be able to just go on his own whenever you want to do live streams. And so look forward to that. And make sure you all push him and encourage him also, because he's a very, very bright young kid. Chris has done an excellent job with him. Shout out to all the adults and people who had any influence and impact in his life. Very, very, very bright kid. Very, very responsible and respectful also. So we
have a choice. You get the left hand. You get you get the left hand of God. You don't listen. So.
Oh man. But oh yeah, make sure you guys check out my recent interview over there on Frank Analysis, and like I said, I will be on there next Friday also. Back again with Dontrell from Unapologetic, the Jordan from Yellowbro, and it was Kamali from I guess he's with Revolutionary Black Leftists. I believe that's what they're calling themselves now. Formerly Fred Hampton's Leftists. So make sure you all check that out. And then we'll try to give you some heads up for whatever else we have coming on down the pike. So thank you all for tuning in so much. You guys have a great weekend. Hopefully you enjoy.
Peace out, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.